The following program was made possible thanks to the generous support of our Kickstarter backers.
Well, first Holmes was born, and he got fat, bald, and tired.
Sup, Holmes?
Thais Weiller, your host, Jonathan Ho!
Whoa! Thanks, Sinistar, and thank you, Thais, for being on the show on this very hot summer day. We have to turn off our air conditioners and fans so we can be audible on the show, so we suffer for you, the viewer. Thais, how is it going? In Brazil is where you're coming in from?
Exactly, in the middle of the jungle, of the Amazon jungle, actually.
Yeah, we were talking a little before the show about so often when I talk about Amazon Game Studios, for instance, they put out a game recently called Till Morning's Light, very fun game. That's normally when I talk about the Amazon. With you, discussion of the Amazon involves the actual Amazon jungle.
Which is actually a pretty big jungle I have discovered since I moved in here.
That's what I've heard. Most of talk of the Amazon isn't like, it's a couple of blocks of shrubs. It's a massive forest that people are talking about. So you didn't always live near the Amazon? You moved there and discovered it?
Yeah, I moved in here last year. Before that, I lived in the south of Brazil. South of Brazil is basically really similar to US or Europe. It's just a weird place with all those people that came from Europe and they just live there.
And so what caused you to want to move closer to the jungle?
Just a job thing. It's really hot in here, but still really, really interesting.
Do you take walks to the jungle regularly just to see how it's going?
The actual jungle is not that near from here, thank God.
Good.
Yeah, but I heard a jaguar attacked someone some months ago around here. I try not to think much about that.
An actual jaguar?
Yeah, it killed a dog.
Oh no! I'm so sad for the dog, but animals will do what
Not
animals
my
will
dog,
do.
I don't care.
And you recently worked on a game, Odallus, The Dark Call,
Exactly.
starring
Yeah.
a man named, if I remember correctly, Haggis?
Exactly.
How cool.
Someone in here is a Highlander fan.
Haggis, I always think of the food and drink. But you are, in that game, you play a rugged man. Your second rugged man game in a row after Oniken. And you have to explore a forest and even deal with jaguars. Did the Amazon forest have any influence on the inspiration or the direction of Odallus?
It can sound weird, but that's actually a common question. And actually it does some parts of it. We do have a boss that walks on the top of a capybara, an undead capybara. Who cares? But still, there is a capybara in the game. And I was talking with Danilo, wow, we should name it capybara. And he was like, I don't want it to make it too obvious. And in Portuguese, the name you call an animal, informal, it's bicho, which is B-I-X-O. And I was like, oh, let's exchange the O for the X, and it sounds Latin. Who cares? And since then, we are calling it Capibiox.
How cool. I wonder, I know Nathan Vila a little bit, founder, or one of the founders of Capybara Games, Cappy Games. He would be thrilled to hear this and see if he can find some connections there between his stuff and your stuff. How long have you been at it with Joy Masher? How long has Joy Masher been around for?
Joy Masher is around since 2012, January 2012. We have released Oniken. Oniken started as Danilo and Pedro Paiva's project, but then Pedro decided to run along with his own projects. Pedro is a more artistic person. He's more into exploring everything related to games, really. Pedro is a really fun guy to talk to. But anyway, I digress. Joy Masher started to release Oniken, actually. And Oniken is completely different from Odallus, but still a retro game. We decided to take a take on Ninja Gaiden and more arcade action, really fast-paced games. And Danilo needed to release it anyway. So me and Marco came along to help him with that.
And Oniken, for those who haven't played it, it was surprising and exciting to me when I first saw it because it was off of the kind of, I don't want to call it retro revival because that's a little strong. But after Mega Man 9 came out, people were starting to see, well, people want games that look like this again. But you didn't go with the Mega Man 9 looking route. You went with a look that was a little bit more risky, in my opinion. It looked more like Low G Man or these NES games that didn't have like colorful cartoon mascot characters. They were NES games that were going for as realistic as the NES could have gone for back in the day, but because it could only do so much. There's little head, big muscular body characters similar to Fist of the North Star. You guys grasped that in a way and still managed to stick out and show that you had a unique vision despite the fact that there was a lot of retro games coming out at that time. Was that a specific decision to try to not go with the cute retro and go with the more like gritty, masculine, violent retro?
Definitely, but if you know Danilo, you're not going to be surprised about that because he's all about a Fist of the North Star. He's a really retro guy and really stubborn guy. So even if me and Marco started to say, oh, you see, Oniken is good, it's a good game, but people right now are more like Mega Man and they do like more cute, he would say, fuck them. Fuck them, I want to do this thing and this is my vision and this is how I want to make this game. I don't care if it's going to flop or everybody's going to hate it. That's how I want to do it. And we were like, okay, no problem.
And he's somewhere in your house right now playing Rondo of Blood, is that right?
Exactly. He and Marco, the programmer, are in the living room right now playing Rondo of Blood, if they haven't changed it right now.
Sure.
Danilo do have a large collection of old hardware video games. So right now they could be playing anything from Master System to PlayStation 1.
Huh? Oh, so he's not, because Rondo of Blood was ported to a couple of things. It was on PSP. It was also the actual original game was
Probably
on the Wii Virtual Console. What games did you grow up playing? Any particular video games, or did you kind of get into this industry through another route?
I don't think I can tell Danilo's life without talking about video games. Really, he started on the NNS as a really small child. His father had no particular sense in showing things to kids. So when he was 3, his father watched with him Alien. Who cares? Because 3 years old were made to watch Alien. And that make a big impression on him anyway. So he played from almost anything. I remember when I started talking with him, it was when he got his GameCube. He was really excited about Metroid Prime. And he actually got Metroid Prime and played for 24 hours in a row. And when, yeah, exactly. And when he beat the game, that's when he stopped playing. He turned off the GameCube, and then he fell in the room and started sleeping in the rug for another 12 hours.
And you ended up marrying this man, is that right?
I'm crazy.
Not at all. It's a wonderful thing. He's got passion. And I'm sure that on some level,
Definitely.
That's contagious and something that has drawn you all together to go on to make several games now. Did you grow up playing games as well?
Yeah, actually, my earliest memory was playing the Atari 2600.
Oh, sure.
My father had one, and I pretty vividly remember playing Pitfall. But actually, what made me start wanting to work with games was Wolfenstein 3D. I remember playing with my father. He usually used it to be the person who controlled it, and I was the person that had the map inside their head. So I was like 5 years old and was like, watch out, there is a dog there. Or open this room, there are 2 guys and one with a machine gun. Watch out.
That sounds like Metal Gear, maybe. Did you remember playing? That's another game with the kind of realistic Macho Man graphics on the old technology. Did you end up playing that one? Do you remember?
With Danilo, actually, not with my father, but
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I did.
Pretty cool. And then looking for, we talked a little bit about this before the show, and looking for pictures for you for the header image for the episode that you're on right now on Destructoid. I saw pictures of you like teaching a class and in like a big room with all these people looking seriously at you as you're pointing at a screen with like Donkey Kong on it. And I also found pictures of you like it seemed like too good to just be a really good picture. It was like you and like a little girl, and it looked like modeling or something. Did you do some modeling as well in the past?
Yeah, actually, yeah. When I was 15, that's Brazil, and you need some money. So instead of being a prostitute, you just end up being a model. It's almost the same kind of money. And I did model when I was 15, 16, but I ended up turning too fat to do it. So I had an option to lose some weight or trying to learn something and do something with my life. And I was like, I really do like eating bacon and potato. I'm not going to lose some weight. So I decided to graduate in high school and then go to the college.
Oh, sure. And if I remember correctly, you were studying journalism and planning on being a journalist at one point as well.
Yeah, true.
Huh. So this Brazil place you're describing, it's hard for me to believe it's real because you've got your own jungle that you just decided to move closer to. 15-year-olds, when they need money, they're just like, should I be a model? Or should I be a prostitute? Decisions.
There are two options.
I didn't have that option as a 15-year-old that I'm aware of. Maybe I had the prostitution option and I didn't know it. I certainly couldn't have just snapped my fingers.
Though. There's a lot of money involved.
Maybe there is, and I have no judgments to our sex workers here in the United States or anywhere in the world. Do what's right for you. But exactly. I didn't have the option. I certainly didn't have the option to be a model. Did you really just kind of snap your fingers and say, "Yeah, I guess I'll model"?
Well, I'm 6 feet tall, so that makes things easier when you're
That's
high.
Cool. Yeah. So when did you decide to go from journalism to game development, indie game development of all things?
I'm a creative person, but I couldn't express myself in the way journalism allowed me to be. So in journalism, as you sure know, you need to be more impartial and needs to express in a certain way. And that's not how I am. That's not how I feel. When I graduated from journalism, I felt really frustrated not being able to tell the story I wanted to tell. That's when I discovered academic world, and that's how I started to studying games. And that's how I moved to São Paulo, which is the biggest city in Brazil. And in São Paulo, studying games, I had the opportunity to start working with actual games, and I was like, cool. I didn't know you could do that before. I thought you needed to be born rich or something else, or prostitution got you there.
And yeah, that's possible too. Do you remember the first game that you worked on in any capacity and what you did on it?
I started working with games in a company called Lupix, and it actually bankrupted before anything got released. But we mostly worked on social games because in 2011, that was the big thing, and everybody was waiting to get rich doing social games and doing Farmville copies and stuff like that. Sure. That's when I really started working professionally on it, and I was like, oh yeah, sure, I can work with that, but that's really close to prostitution. And
it is depending. I mean, again, it's funny.
I have no problem with that. I didn't quit actually, but still I was working with that. I needed to express myself in a different way. Danilo was already working with Oniken, so I was like, oh, okay, do you need any help? You need me to do anything? And that's how I started in indie games.
Hmm. And what did you do at the social games company before it went bankrupt?
Before it went bankrupt, I was basically a game designer, but I actually did some producing on myself because we didn't have any producers. I know it sounds crazy, but we didn't.
Huh. And so that experience, I'm sure, helped you to move on to working with Joy Masher. And what exactly do you, I should have asked this at the top of the show, what do you do for Joy Masher? Is there anything you don't do? Is there any aspect of Joy Masher you don't touch at all?
Probably programming. That's the only thing I don't do in Joy Masher.
Sure.
I do help with game design. I do help with level design. I do all the PR. I do most of the text. If you played Odallus, all the texts were touched by me at some point. Everything else, balancing, level balancing.
Any of the
system
character design and graphics and stuff, decision making
That's
around
mostly Danilo, but Danilo is daltonic, so I do help him with knowing which is red and which is green.
Oh, he's colorblind.
Yeah, colorblind.
Oh, cool. There's some new glasses that help with that. I'll see if I can look into them for you. They're very expensive. But yeah, there's a video on the internet right now.
We're in Brazil. We can't do expensive stuff.
I'll mail them to you. I'll find them.
Thank you.
There's a video on the internet of a guy putting them on and seeing purple for the first time, and he practically starts crying. It's very sweet. It wasn't.
Not going to cry.
he sounds as tough as the characters in his games.
Until he drinks, but yeah, that's basically him sober.
And before I forget, if you did a lot of the text for Joy Masher's games, was it your decision to put in that Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me reference?
That's Danilo, actually.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was my decision to make him watch Twin Peaks. He didn't want to. He was like, oh, that's a hipster show. I don't want to watch it. And I was like, shut up. We should try at least. You can't say no until you watch it. And we watched it through the first season, and he was like, "Oh, this is awesome." And then we started the second season, and he was like, "Oh, this sounds like a teenage soap opera. I can't do this anymore." And I was like,
"Okay." It get worse after a while. Yeah. Well, thank you for that reference. It made Twin Peaks fans everywhere quite happy. But you didn't overload either Oniken or Odallus with references or attempts to kind of closely copy something else. They both feel to me like, sure, they're games that are similar to games that existed back in the Nintendo world, but they still feel original. They feel like original NES games or Famicom games. Was that something you made a conscious decision to stay away from too many direct references or copying or looking like you were trying to play off of video game reference humor or anything like that?
Honestly, I think we do already have enough references. I do like the amount we have, but I still think it is too much already. Yeah, and we love all the content we reference to, but still we wanted to do something unique. We didn't want to be just the game that do references. And there were a lot of material we took reference to. For instance, Dune, all the Dune series. I'm a big fan of Dune. Danilo can't read, but still he likes the movie. We do have a small reference to that. I was really, really conscious about doing that reference. And actually, we do have two. We have one that is a full text reference from the movie itself. And we do have a small reference to a book that is not completely obvious.
Huh? I'll look for those. I had no idea. Those are the kind of references that feel more like Easter eggs and less like pandering. They're not trying to just like say, hey, I like a thing you like, buy my thing. They're more nice little secrets. So that's a nice way of doing it. Maybe we can dial it back to Oniken and when that came out, how did you feel about how the response was to it? Did you expect something different than what you got in terms of response?
To be honest, for the 3 first weeks, I couldn't think about it because I was the only person doing PR, so I didn't sleep for the first 3 weeks. But actually, the response for Oniken, it was overwhelming. We were really happy about the response on it because it is a hard game and it's not aimed to a big public. And still, we got a very big response on it. We were really, really happy about it.
And you end up doing there was DLC, if I remember correctly, adding new characters and I think new levels as well.
I don't know if you can call DLC if it is free, but still, we do have we did had some upgrades to the game itself that we didn't have any money involved.
Yeah, they were free.
Yeah.
What motivated you to do that?
Oh, Danilo just really likes the game, and so do all of us. Actually, that's a fun standard in Danilo. Every time we are close to releasing a game, but not too close, he's like, "Oh, I already thought about that game number 2 and that game 3." That happened to Odallus and Oniken, and then if I have thought about their son and their daughter, and they're going to do that. And I always respond the same way. Okay, yeah, sure. And 1 month before release, he's all like, "Oh, I hate this game. I'm never going to do a second of it. I don't want to talk about this game more." And I always answer the same way. "Oh, yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, that's how we are going to do."
Does he like Oniken now, or does he still feel like or is it painful for him to look at it?
2 years later, yeah, he does like it.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. 1 or 2 months after it, he hates it. Yeah. Right now, he's not hating Odallus thanks to the Dextroid reveal because we had 9, and he was like, "Oh, all the depression is gone. I'm all happy."
Oh, thanks. Did you say the Destructoid review?
Exactly.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah. It was reviewed by Jed Whittaker, who
Amazing reveal.
I'll tell him you said so. He is very critical.
Yeah.
He's hard to please. There's a game that I think is a great game called Environmental Station Alpha, which I think he only gave a 7. And I was like, that's kind of low, Jed. He's like, "I'm a tough cookie. I don't screw around." And Odallus, he absolutely loved it. There's very little he would change about it.
So we were watching he play. He did a whole Twitch cam about it, and he started playing and say, "I don't, $15. I don't think it's worth it." and we were watching, and then he was like, "Oh, I don't think that's a good game." And he was like in the second, on the third stage, and he was like, "Oh, this is kind of getting interesting." And then he was like, "He's thinking my work is interesting." I was like, "Yeah."
That's a great Jed impersonation, and I desperately hope that he watches this episode.
Please watch it.
Yeah, he's able to.
Danilo is a really, really standard artistic guy. So when we are really close to lunch, he's all like, "Oh, I hate this game. Everybody's going to hate it. Everybody's going to see I'm a fake, and I'm stupid, and I can't do this." And I'm like, "Just wait 1 more week." And he was like, no, I want to kill myself. I want to kill everybody. I want to die. I'm stupid." And then we released the game, and he's okay again. So.
I'm glad to hear he's okay. But at the same time, I can't help but be happy that he has this level of intensity, because I don't imagine these games would exist if he didn't. He sounds like someone whom, when he dives in deep, and be with playing Metroid Prime, or be that with all this creative output of all of these ideas he has, and wanting to make Odallus 2 and 3 and Son of Odallus and all that. And then when he gets into critical mode, it sounds like he becomes so overcritical that he hates everything and wants everything to be better than it is, and nothing is good enough, which probably is why the games come out so well polished.
Yeah, we wanted actually to release an extra mode with the launch. And in the week before launch, it was really, really bad, saying, "Oh, we can't finish this game. I can't finish. It's going to be awful. Everybody's going to hate it." And he was really in this cyclical hating himself and hating the game for 3 whole days, and he was like, "Okay, I'm going to cut the extra mode. And I was like, okay, cut it if you want. And he was like, yes, I'm going to cut it and I'm going to polish the real game, but because that's me, I'm going to give something that's really polished and not something extra it's going to look like crap. But that's what I'm going to do. And I was like, do it. And that made him like 30% better in 2 minutes.
Interesting. So cutting content that, for all we know, I mean, it's sounding like he is his own worst critic, and something that he is saying is garbage that everyone's going to hate. I might have really liked it. Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, that's completely Danilo. Danilo is really critical on himself. The extra mode is actually the veteran mode. As soon as you beat the game, the veteran mode is going to be available. The veteran mode has a difficulty more similar to Oniken. So everyone who really liked Oniken and thought Odallus was easy, like Jed, for instance, they're probably going to like the veteran mode. We expect it to be released next week, not the one starting tomorrow, the other one.
Right, for free, I guess, or are you charging for it?
Yeah, for free.
Nice.
That's us. We are stupid. We don't like money.
How are you feeling about Odallus's sales so far? Do you feel like it's gotten enough attention that people are picking it up, or do you think it still has a ways to go?
Well, we are actually a niche company, so for what we expected is really good right now.
Oh, good. A lot of people are saying that they love the look of it, but they don't want to play that kind of game on their computer. They're saying that's the kind of game I want to, play on my 3DS or my PS Vita or on my TV. Do you think there's any chance that you'll ever make it to consoles?
There might be. I just can say wait for it. We are working on it.
You are, so that's something you want as well then.
Yeah, I'm saying metaphorically. We're working on that metaphorically. So yeah, there might be something in 2 or 3 months. Wait it.
In 2 or 3 months, metaphorically, in a metaphorical month or 3. Quotes. You just did air quotes. That makes me feel very. Okay, I won't tell a soul. Are there any consoles in particular that you think the games, both Oniken and Odallus, I think, are ripe for console releases? Oniken is not new to PC players, but to console players, it would just be this brand new thing. And I've been hearing from more and more people actually that Axiom Verge, which really reminds me of the style of games you guys make. We had the developer of that game on a while ago. He recently came out and said in the Destructoid comments of all places that Axiom Verge sold better on PS4 than it did on Steam, which I thought was pretty surprising. Yeah, and we've heard that. What else? Elliot Quest is a Wii U game that sold better on Wii U than on Steam. High Strangeness, a game that's on Steam and Wii U, sold better on Wii U. So we're hearing more and more that games of the size and style that you do, which are, like you said, they're small, but the games themselves are pretty expansive in scope, but they don't have a lot of flashy, eye-catching, next-gen graphics per se. They're games that people are very passionate about when they find them, but they don't like scream at your average person like, you must play me. I mean, they scream to me that they do, but not in the same way Arkham Knight or whatever game is catching headlines at the time. These games are doing really well on consoles, so that could be great for you. I'm wondering what console you think would be best.
That's a
tough one.
Question. Yeah, I can think of all the consoles are really interesting for us right now. Yeah. Right now, we only have in the house a Wii U, but Nintendo doesn't like Brazil very much. So
what? You're kidding?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You should.
Yeah, they don't send SDKs to Brazil for some reason. I think it is because of the government or something.
Because of the Brazilian government?
Yeah, Brazil has a really strict laws about electronics coming inside. So apparently you need a permit, and SDKs are not a big something that you're going to sell, or it's going to be a a return for it. So they just don't register SDKs and they just don't send SDKs.
Son of a gun.
Yeah.
What coding language was Odallus made in, and was Oniken made in the same language?
That's a funny question. We use Multimedia Fusion too, which is an engine almost no one uses nowadays, but still a good engine. They use it to be a software called Click and Play, and they evolved it to Multimedia Fusion. It's a mostly visual language. Danilo is not a programmer, so he can do all by himself using that.
Oh, cool. Huh.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I ask is I'm trying to figure out how easy it would be to port, because I know a lot of people. No, I didn't think so. I know a lot of people, just off the top of my head, who would love to talk to you about the idea of helping you port. Maybe you already have plans, and if so, wonderful. But if you want to talk to even more people, let me know.
Oh, you know my email, so just send them.
I do know your email. You have such a cool accent. Just to diverge for a second from this subject, what kind of accent is that?
Brazilian, I suppose.
Is it? It feels almost Polish at times.
Really? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I did live in India for a while, so I guess it's not completely Brazilian. So.
Huh. What led you to be in India?
I was a game designer in India for a while.
Cool. What games were you working on in India? Well, how did you treat your life like it is not an uncommon life? You're like, well,
it's
modeling at 15, moved to the Amazon jungle a year ago, game development India. These are not average events for people. We
are not going to live for a long time in this world, and personally, I don't think you're going to have any other life after this one. So, if opportunities appear, you should just take them. I worked in India for a month and a half. I had an awesome time with everybody. I worked in there. Thank you, everyone there, if anyone is watching. And it was awesome. Food there is amazing. If you can go to India, go.
I've heard that.
There.
Yeah, I can't just go there. I wish I could. And you did. How did you get that job? Did you just go on the internet and say, I wonder what kind of job? Really? Huh.
Really?
Pretty cool.
Gama Sutra is amazing. Never underestimate the powers of Gama Sutra.
Yeah, absolutely. They're a great website. Great people over there. Can you tell us about the game you worked on in India? Because I'm still curious.
I don't think so. All I can say, it was a mobile game, and it was almost 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So after Oniken, but before Odallus.
Jungle, yeah.
Yeah. And Odallus had a Indiegogo campaign, if I remember correctly.
Exactly.
It met its goal, but it didn't meet the goals I was hoping it would. After I'm trying to remember if it was before or after the Shovel Knight Kickstarter campaign, which got,
I think it was after.
Yeah, I think so too. Which got hundreds of thousands of dollars. The Odallus campaign very humbly got a few $1,000s, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Was that really enough to get the game? Like, how much did those few thousands actually do to help you make the game?
It helped a lot at the time because we are mostly 3 people, but we do need some outside work. So it did help us with the outside work we are needing to pay in that moment. But we are not Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight's amazing. We are big fans of the Shovel Knight guys. Thank you guys if you're watching it. But we did enough for what we needed at the time.
Huh. So it got you through. Do you think would have been more or less impossible for Odallus to come out in 2015 if it weren't for that campaign?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, that campaign paid most of our musicians. If you like the music on Odallus, you should buy the CD, which he's selling. We do have a link in our Steam page. But yeah, if it wasn't for it, if it wasn't for our backers, we probably wouldn't have such a good sound.
Yeah, and it does sound great. Were you afraid at all, knowing that Odallus was going to take on so much larger of scope than Oniken? Oniken is a level-based game. You get through the level, you beat the boss, you did it, you get through a few levels. So in terms of like traveling from one end to the full game to the other, I'm guessing you could probably speed run it in, what do you think, like a half hour, something like that?
Danilo could beat the game in 14 minutes in the end of the
14
project.
minutes. Right. Yeah. Well, he made it, so he's got some advantages. Odallus, much larger. Was that scarier to take on the prospect of something you knew was bigger in scope?
I'm going to be completely honest right here. When Odallus started as a prototype, me and Marco, we were working in a different project, and Danilo was the only one on Odallus, and we were like, are you sure you're going to use your time to work on that? And he was like, oh, this is a short game. I'm going to take like 6 months on it. They were like, okay, are you sure? And he was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure 6 months tops. And 2 years and 6 months later, here we are.
And it turned out bigger than he was imagining.
Yeah, for instance, in the Indiegogo campaign, I suppose he said it was going to be 6 levels. And it's actually 8, and they're much more complex than he thought they would be. But still, we're really happy with the result. We believe the game is good, and that's what we wanted to do from the beginning, a good game. We don't care about the actual size of it, as long as it is a good game.
Sure. Though it does seem like Danilo's personality is one that's big on doing bigger and better than he did before. He wouldn't be satisfied. It doesn't sound like with going backwards in any way. And you're willing to take so many different risks with your YOLO attitude, so to speak. I believe that's what he said earlier, that you only live once. You're willing to take these kinds of risks as well. What do you guys think you might do next? Are you already working on your next game?
Right now, we're only thinking about fixing bugs and supporting controllers, and our next game, who knows what we can do in the next game. We really don't care. It actually may be smaller, as long as I know. Yeah.
Have you had some ideas yourself as to what you think should happen next? You have had. You don't have to say what they are, but
it is a surprise. I can tell you, the rest is going to ruin it.
Yeah, of course. But it's nice to know that you have ideas, and something will happen. This is not the end of Joy Match.
Something will happen, yeah, definitely. Wait for something. I can't tell what something is going to be, but something.
I will wait for something. I promise that I will. What kind of, like, did you imagine these are the kind of games you would work on? Are these the kinds of games you always wanted to work on? Or did you ever have another genre in mind, like RPG or fighting game, that sort of thing?
Well, I do love fighting game, but I don't have an eye for balance. Danilo, I think he could do balance for a fighting game. RPG is not our big deal. We are not great doing RPG as much as we do like playing them. I don't know. We actually thought about doing an isometric game, something similar to Super Giant games, for instance. We thought about it. We really liked their 2 big games, but I can't promise anything. We did do a test called Killing Moon, which was an isometric story-based game mostly. That it was inspired by Donnie Darko.
What was the name of the game?
Killing Moon, which is actually the name of their main song. So.
Oh, that's right. So you did a prototype for that?
Yeah, it was on a game jam, Horror Game Jam here in Brazil.
Oh, cool. Is there any way that people can get a hold of that and try it out?
Yeah, it's a web-based game. We do have the link on our website.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll check that out. For some reason, I've been thinking a lot about Victory Road. I don't know if you ever played that.
Victory Road? Danilo is here. I think I can ask him. Você jogou Victory Road? He said no, and he's sleeping.
It's the sequel to Ikari Warriors. It might have been called something different in Brazil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Sure, absolutely. It's isometric, so it's top down. This is back in the day. similar to the kinds of games that seem to influence Oniken and Odallus, where Konami in particular, but a lot of people did this, they wanted to make a game based on like Aliens or Predator or whatever the big movie was at the time, but they couldn't actually get the rights to Arnold Schwarzenegger's likeness, so they just put a guy who looks like him in Contra. So they basically got two guys that look like Rambo from the original Rambo, and one's got a red headband, one's got a blue headband, and I think the brothers or something, Ralph and Clark. And they just go and kill everyone in the jungle. But for the sequel, it's pretty neat, right? Even better, in the sequel, they just put them in like this bizarre space science fiction world where their giant head made of stone, as soon as you start the game, he goes, "Hey, show some guts! You can't defeat me! Come get me if you can!" Then he cackles his iconic arcade cackle, getting all excited just thinking about it. It is the kind of game that I feel like you and Danilo might really enjoy. I hope you check it out later. Victory Road, everyone.
We will do that. Oh, good point.
That was the most polite reaction to a man suddenly screaming at you, telling you about an old arcade game by SNK, I believe, that I could have imagined. So thank you.
Yeah, we do love SNK. So Danilo, Danilo's all the time looking for their arcade games and watching them in YouTube and watching the pixel art, and he's always like, "Oh, that was the time. Yeah, that was the day.
Yeah,
that was the time when pixel art was really, really taken seriously."
I'm quite convinced he must have played Victory Road at some point then. It did come out before King of Fighters and when SNK's graphics were really getting super impressive. There was an NES port for it that was okay. Yeah, it must just have a different name. I'm not sure. Pretty cool. You married a nerd, like a big-time nerd, it sounds like.
Yeah, guilty, sorry.
Was that, has it been strange to share your life with someone who's this passionate about video games and passionate in general, or has it just been a fit that you couldn't imagine it being any other way? Do you feel like it had to be this way?
I honestly can't imagine my life in any other different way. We have been together since 2003.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, I was 15 and he was 16 or something. And I'm weird, he's weird, we are being weird together since then.
And I say nerd, I'm not really sure why. It's been a topic of discussion amongst me and some people I know for a little while anyway. But you're both very cool. Like you grew up loving video games, but you both seem like pretty cool people.
Yeah, we pretend very well a lot of stuff, so maybe that's it.
I wouldn't think so. You've got a style that permeates into all of the things that you do, and that's got to come from somewhere. I guess passion in general. Well, I don't know if you've seen it this way. Growing up, you played video games. Have you seen the perception of someone who's passionate about games? Have you seen that change? Here in the United States, it's changed somewhat. In Brazil, if you played video games a lot when you were 15, 16, were you considered nerdy? And has that changed now that we're in 2015?
Yeah, that had happened a lot. I think not that strong as is in the United States, because right here, a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One are still very expensive to get, so normal people wouldn't get them so easily. But there's still this shift between the bro gamer and the actual nerds from the 90s and the 80s. Well, actually, we do sense that, but honestly, we just care about doing good games. If the bro gamers are going to like it, or if the actual nerds are going to like it, we don't care. We just want to do a game that's good and enjoyable, and people are going to have a good experience playing it.
Absolutely. But it's undeniable, I think, that as video games have become a more mainstream thing, now, and I've talked about this on the show before, but I hope it's been a while, so it's not too repetitive, when something becomes mainstream, then people will start to like it or say that they like it just because it affects their image. They want to be known as the kind of person who. And there was actually kind of a big backlash against retro gamers for a little while. I kept hearing people tell me as I'm writing on Destructoid or just on Twitter or whatever, saying like, "Oh, you retro gamers, and you used this term earlier. You think you're so cool. You're such hipsters." Saying like, "Oh, have you ever played a TurboGrafx 16? Like you think you're the elite and you're superior to us regular people who just like Call of Duty." And I'm like, whoa, all this social class stuff. It was never in video games when I grew up. When I grew up, it was like you're either playing video games so everyone knows that you're not normal, or you're not playing video games and instead playing sports or just going to the movies. And there was no like football players who would openly say they liked video games. They would like. There was a couple of closeted football players who would like secretly play Legend of Zelda with me at night. Yeah, like when no one was around. They're like, nobody, you can't tell the fucking soul that we just beat the boss of Legend of Zelda. All right, I don't want anyone to know. So it was like, totally against your image then. But that's changed now. Like people are saying they like X, Y, and Z game, or they're an X, Y, Z video game clique. Because it like makes them feel good about themselves. It's totally changed. Have you suffered any of that retro gamer backlash? Have people been critical of you over that?
The backlash always happens, not always, but it's more frequent when you're a woman, because everybody says, "Oh, you're not a real gamer. You're just a woman who likes video games, and you like to pretend you're a gamer so gamers can give you attention." And that's actually really common, independently of the time. I have heard that 10 years ago, and I do hear it yet up to this point. But I honestly don't care. The thing is, we do games that we like and we would like to play if it were made for someone else, and that's what we do. Honestly,
I'm glad that's what you do. Yeah, I'm glad that you shrug your shoulders in the face of people who, I mean. I don't know what your definition of hater is, but for me, a hater is someone who their only purpose in what they're saying is, and the only reason they're saying they hate something isn't necessarily because they even genuinely hate it. It makes them feel good about themselves to say someone else is fake, or that someone is bad. So when people are saying these things about you, that you only are into games, like, and you've been working on them forever and like dedicated your life to them and put your financial life on the line for them. It's like, it's pretty unlikely you would just do this because you like to be liked by.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty obvious. If anyone thought it through, you're probably not just in it for, being liked by other video game players. Right.
Actually,
they must.
Especially if you did Oniken, but because you're not going to be liked by anyone, honestly.
Oniken really did defy what people were thinking was a marketable video game at the time. And I guess Odallus has in a way too, and yet you've defied that concept of what's marketable and what's not with your successes.
Oniken is really funny because up to this point, and it's almost 2 years since we launched it in Steam, but actually more time since we launched it at all, and people still get angry about the stages, and people still say, "I couldn't get to stage 3. You guys are fucking morons in doing that game." And I don't know, but in Japanese sites, people say it's easy. Who cares?
That's similar to what I've heard from the Viking guys, Crazy Viking Studios. Yeah, they were on the show. They said the exact same thing. They still get rage, and they take it as a sign that, and I don't want to speak for them, but my understanding is they take it as a sign of success, that if people are that passionate, and if they care enough to try over and over to the point where they get angry, that means you did something right.
I hope so. But apparently they do care about it. They do care about the status of beating some of the stages, or they do care about the game itself to the point that they want to play it more and get frustrated by doing. So yeah, something we did right. I don't know which thing, but still something.
A whole lot of things you did right. They are such pure tributes to that style of game, and while not being satisfied with just being tributes, you want to do more than has been done before with each of your games. So that's my guess as to why they've done as well as they have, and will hopefully continue to do well. I meant to ask this before. Under what capacity have you given these lectures and done these talks to classrooms? You've been like a teacher.
Yeah, I'm now in Manaus, in the middle of the jungle, as we have spoken earlier. But when we did live in São Paulo, I was a game design teacher, while I was also a game designer. So I mostly did lectures about game design and how about doing an indie game. I also helped with talking, I don't know how to say that in English, but conversations between indie developers and people that they wanted to understand how it was to be an indie developer. And I was like the, not ambassador, the person who made them speak, anyway.
Translator or interpreter?
No, not a translator. They're all Brazilians, but I was the one who made the questions and made sure they were speaking to the audience.
Oh, maybe like a host or
host. Yeah, host is a good word for that.
Moderator, maybe. Cool.
Moderator, that's perfect. That's
we got it.
The Portuguese word. Yeah, that's the word. Moderator.
Do you remember the first class you taught and what you were thinking, what inspired you to want to do that?
I do love sharing knowledge about anything that I do know about it. My first class was basically about design, not game design, but art and design in general. That's how I started giving classes. And I just love talking to people and making they understand about things that I already know. But not only understand, but it's like entering a new world, especially with aesthetics and design and composition and photograph and art. And it's really, really interesting to give them problems and watch they learn while they solve the problems. In the beginning, in the first 3 or 4 months, I was just teaching arts and design, and then I started teaching game design, and then I started giving lectures about level design and working in the company and how to balance, how to make the communication of an indie company to the outside world, and teaching something I'm really passionate with. My mother is actually a teacher, and she has 5 sisters, and all of them are teachers. So I think it might run in the family.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's come up on the show before. One of the times I remember talking about it the most, I think, was with Edmund McMillan, who made Super Meat Boy and Binding of Isaac. He sees each level as an opportunity to teach the player. And if you give them too much work to do, they're going to get overwhelmed and want to quit. If you give them not enough work to do, they're going to be bored. So it's sounding like, do you approach level design sort of like how you would approach teaching a class or teaching an individual? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was one of the main things and one of the hardest to teach in a workshop of level design. But you have to teach one lesson at a time, but still do it in a way that it doesn't sound bored, as Edward had said. And it's really hard because every player has a different background and a different level of knowledge, and they grasp content in a different way. So you need to balance the content in a way that players that learn faster or already know that knowledge can progress faster as well. And that balance is not very easy to accomplish in a level design.
Right. I wonder if you would ever want to make a game about something that's uniquely Brazilian, because that's something you could teach a lot of people about. That they like. I feel like I've learned more about Brazil in the past, however long we've been doing the show for, than I have in my whole life, and I'm 38. Like I had no idea all of these things. And we've talked to some people who worked on The Witcher recently, not on this show, but in general, about how that game part of their motivation in adapting the Witcher books to a game is to like let the whole world know more about Polish folklore. A guy who's making a game called Devastated Dreams. His wife, I believe, is from the Philippines, and their next game, Devastated Dreams, has incorporated all of this stuff about Vietnamese folklore in it as well. Is that something you've thought about? How could you like teach the world about what it's like to be a Brazilian in your games?
It's hard content to get into because the first thing people ask when you start doing games in Brazil is what is Brazilian about it? And yeah, they want us to put folklore in a way that is obvious. And honestly, I don't feel obvious translation of our folklore and our life are a good translation because it's stupid. Nobody can really relate with direct translations. It's more interesting when it's something that is in the context of the game or something that you don't realize it is there until you, oh, that's not common here. That's something different. What is that? And honestly, in that contextual way, I think Odallus and Oniken already have a bit of Brazilian on themselves. Not, yeah, not directly, but still.
Yeah, that does make. I mean, I don't have enough frame of reference to know, but that could be part of why they stand out a little bit. I've never been to Brazil. I know some people think I look Brazilian, which I always take as a compliment. I'll go to a Brazilian neighborhood.
You do.
Oh, thank you. People will start speaking Portuguese to me if I go to a Brazilian bakery. Actually, totally off topic. I went to a Brazilian bakery recently, and they had a thing that looked like a cake, but it was covered in potato sticks. And I think the frosting was actually mashed potatoes.
I think you had something with stroganoff flavor.
I think you're right. What the heck is? And they didn't tell me the name of it. What was I eating? Do you know the name of that thing?
Yeah, so stroganoff is something we do with meat. We dice the meat in small pieces, and we cook it with tomato sauce and a bit of white cream, and that's stroganoff. We eat it with rice and straw potatoes. That's how we call it, batata palha.
But this was like a layered cake with like, it was like cake, meat, and then on the outside, was that mashed potatoes? They wouldn't even tell me.
So that's an interpretation about stroganoff. That's not the real thing. That's their take on stroganoff, and maybe a stroganoff pie. Who knows?
It even had cherries on top, which I did not expect.
I'm not expecting that. There shouldn't be cherries on it.
Yes, I'm glad we're in agreement on that. Well, thank you for the quick Brazilian education.
Well, was it good?
I was terrified. My mouth could not cope. It was a challenge that, like, if it was like skipping to the last level of Brazilian food. I had not learned the lessons and grown.
I haven't taken this last stage, so you're good not taking it by now.
That makes me feel better. Could you maybe, I don't know, and it's okay if you don't want to give it away, but I am really curious about your opinion about how Oniken and Odallus have kind of a Brazilian flavor or some Brazilianness to them. What would you say makes them more Brazilian than your average American game, maybe?
I don't know. Perhaps their take on a chaotic world. That's how we Brazilians actually approach to our real life. So all Brazilians I talk to that have lived abroad in any way, they're all talking about, oh, people here, they expect their life is going to work in any way besides their own. For instance, I have taken some German classes, and my German teacher, while she was living in German, she was like, oh, Germans, they wait in the bus stop until the bus passes, and if the bus doesn't go through there, they are desperate. They don't know what to do. And as a Brazilian, we are ready to know that the bus is not going to go there for some reason, and we need to adapt. We are always needing to adapt to everything because nothing works properly. the subway is not going to work properly, the bus is not going to work properly. I'm in Manaus and the bus don't have a schedule, actually. Sometimes I wait for the bus for 1 hour and sometimes I wait for the bus for 10 minutes and I'm always in the same time in the bus stop. So as a Brazilian, you have to adapt. And in Oniken and in Odallus, in both games, the word is not working in some way. You have to fix it. And even when you fix it, you're not fixing it. You're just making your way through it. And both in Oniken and in Odallus, that's true. Even in the end, when you do everything and you feel right about it, you didn't fix shit. You just went through everything and you get there and you deal with a problem, but that didn't fix for everybody else. That just fixed the thing for you. So that's something Brazilian about both of them, actually.
Wow, what an interesting observation. What I've heard about Brazilian life in the past, not very much, but everyone I've ever met from Brazil loves heavy metal. And
Heavy metal?
Yeah, and that just could be a coincidence, but like really like serious hardcore metal, like beyond Slayer levels, like Cannibal Corpse and stuff like that. So they're like ready.
I do hear Cannibal Corpse anyway, so.
You've heard of Cannibal Corpse before?
Oh, obviously, I was a teenager at some point.
Obviously, that I know of. Cannibal Corpse is not like what most teens in America, past or present, were ever like hip to. But in Brazil, they're kind of a popular band, I've heard, or were.
Actually, not popular, but between outcasts, yeah, it's popular.
Yeah.
Because what you need to understand is in Brazil, we do still have the segregation of people who like video games and people who like popular stuff. So like novellas and novellas, which are soap operas and popular music. And though I do like to see there's not a big difference. Culturally, it's kind of this because, yeah, most teams that are outcasts, they do know about Cannibal Corpse and Ramones and metal and punk rock and everything else. And people who are not outcasts, they know shit about it. They know about certain Asia songs, which are country music and stuff like that.
Sure. So there is a class divide there. And is it the same social class who knows about the Ramones and Cannibal Corpse who would be playing video games, playing your kinds of video games, you think?
Not as much a social class as social outcasts, because I have met people from different, completely different social classes and social backgrounds who are in that category and people who aren't in the other category. There are rich people and poor people in the same way in both classes.
Oh, so financial class different, but social outcast class being in that is frowned upon social class the same, And how did you? It's a puzzle that I'm probably never going to fully understand. How you ended up here? I mean, I'm finding pictures of you as a model on Google in 2015. You probably could have just kept modeling and been rich, probably. I mean, but you didn't want to. You wanted to eat the mashed potatoes and the bacon and join the social outcasts and make Oniken and Odallus here in your, I'm guessing you in your mid-20s or something like that.
I'm not sure how much I have. I think 27.
Yeah,
27.
27.
Yeah, 27.
Like what do you feel as though there's something about you that might be different that might have led you to be here? Do you feel like you're just your average woman?
Honestly, I hate stupid people, so it's easier to find interesting and intelligent and compelling people in the middle of the outcasts. So we do have people who know who niche is in the middle of the outcasts, while we don't have in the middle of the normal people. They just know what kind of soap opera is going through the TV right now. So that might be one of the points, but it also helps that I was too fat to be a model.
Yeah, but sure, but the way it sounded, there was a crossroads. You could have decided to enter this world of maybe fakeness. Maybe people who cared more about image than they did about substance and being genuine and real and doing what is fun, which is eating mashed potatoes and designing video games. You could have chosen this route. They're delicious, aren't they? But yeah, you didn't. You could have chosen the skinny fake world route, but instead you chose the Joy Masher route. That's how it sounds anyway.
Well, what can I say? I do love Outcasts, and I feel like I'm one of them.
Really?
Honestly, even if you guys think I'm fake, I don't care. I do like playing Rondo of Blood, and even Castlevania Symphony of the Night. I don't love it that much. I mean, who cares about the castle that is reversed? That was a stupid idea. But still, I do like those games.
What's your favorite, Doug? Off the top of your head, do you have a favorite Castlevania game?
Oh, obviously Castlevania 2.
Obviously Castlevania 2.
Obviously Castlevania 2.
That is not, again, maybe it's different in Brazil. In the United States,
no, it's
Castlevania
not.
2 is it in Brazil too? Castlevania 2 is kind of the black sheep of the family?
Worst? Yeah. But the thing is, I played Castlevania 2 when I was already I think 21 or 22. So I knew what it represented at the time, and I knew what was supposed to be, and I knew what it made as a completely new thing. And what I felt about Castlevania 2 while playing it, it was supposed to be a really good game, and it had all those innovations on it, and probably someone rushed it into being launched before it was supposed to. So it has a lot of open ends, like the hurricane thing, the tornado thing, which is stupid. There's no fucking reference of it. So it has big, ginormous flaws. It does. But it still has so many interesting stuff that was completely new at the time, like the different paths and how the narrative is spoken to the player and the gameplay. I really like how you feel the mechanics working in the controllers. I remember playing it when I had just moved to São Paulo, and I remember playing it for like nights and nights in a row, not understanding what I was supposed to do, but still liking how it felt, just for the gameplay itself.
That is, I don't know why I was ever surprised to hear that, because it sounds like you're describing, in some aspects, a Joy Masher game. The Joy Masher games are much more polished.
Thank you.
Well, it's true. But the feeling you were describing earlier of this Brazilian life of this world is not fair and it's not going to work the way you want it to. Going to the Brazilian bus stop is not unlike the tornado in Castlevania 2. Like, why does this work? When will this work? There's no logic. You're not told up front how this is going to go.
That's a good point on it.
Oh,
I never thought about how Castlevania 2 translates to my life in Brazil, but still, it does actually.
And I don't know
the redstone and the tornado, which is just stupid.
And I don't know enough about Brazilian nightlife to speak to whether you feel like it's a horrible night to have a curse.
Yes.
And
Yes, it is.
I've heard things that Brazil can get very intense at night.
Definitely. So most foreigners, when they come to Brazil, they expect to have the same level of cordiality when they come here in the night. But honestly, you don't want to be in the street after 10. You can be in nightclubs, you can be in bars after that time, but you don't want to be walking the sideways ever, unless you have a knife.
It's just like Castlevania 2. Yeah. Unless you have like the best weapons you can get.
A whip or a knife or something of the sort.
Terrifying. I played Castlevania 2 right when it came out. I remember buying the Nintendo Power issue that, if I remember correctly, had like a live actor who looked similar to Haggis, actually, on the cover, looking serious. And when we played it, we didn't think, oh, they screwed up, this was rushed. Because back then, there was this weird expectation that we were going to put up with a world that was completely unfair. Maybe it's because Dungeons and Dragons was still pretty big, and everyone knew that you play Dungeons and Dragons, it's being run by the dungeon master, who's essentially the game designer. They're going to find holes. They're going to leave you in unfair situations. You're going to roll the dice and maybe lose, even though you had every reason to win. Luck will be working against you. This is how RPGs were back then. That's how Castlevania 2 was. Open world, no explanation, things that you can't tell if it's a glitch or a feature or just the way the map works. Is that wall supposed to be invisible, or am I supposed to be able to walk through it? Is the game breaking? And if you found a glitch and you could exploit it, you didn't feel badly about it. You were excited to cheat. It's the only way we ever won Metroid, the first Metroid. We could never beat Kraid. Are you kidding me? It was impossible. We had to do the glitch where you actually can go around and get to the last level without actually beating Kraid, and we weren't sure if that was intentional or not. So, yeah, just a quick rant of excitement about Castlevania 2, because it's fun to hear someone else who also enjoyed it in a different way.
I love Castlevania 2. Danilo is always angry at me. That's the worst Castlevania. Land of Blood's much better. Castlevania 4 is ridiculously better. And I was like, no, you have to understand. Simon talks to us. Simon has a problem and he needs to solve it, and the world's not fair, and we need to help him.
It's really him at his most vulnerable, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. He's in a skirt. It's really hard to get around with his skirt.
That's true too. And he's just got to find those Dracula parts and put them together. I remember talking to Konami about Castlevania 2 in relation to Order of Ecclesia, which came out much later. I don't know if you ever played that one on the DS.
No, I don't think so.
Maybe I can send it to you. I think. Do you have a DS? Are those relatively obtainable in Brazil?
They are, but we went to GDC this year, so I do have a 3DS right now.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, if I can find an old Order of Ecclesia lying around, I'll send it to you and Danilo to check out, because it's a pretty important game. Up until then, actually, Koji Igarashi, who we interviewed for our magazine, I wonder if you'd like our magazine. You can check it out. You can get it for free, digital, or you can get it for print. Anyway, he was saying, I don't know about having a female lead in Castlevania, because in vampire mythology, women are usually just like damsels or sacrificial lambs. I don't know if I ever want to like put one in the lead, and is a guy going to want to play as a woman? He totally changed his attitude on that, and eventually made Order of Ecclesia, where the lead character is a woman, actually based on his wife. So that leads me to say, will Danilo make his next game about you, please?
Maybe, who knows? He's sleeping right now, but we can ask him later.
I think that he absolutely should. I want to tell him what to do, like a pushy fan often does. He's done the Fist of the North Star style character with Oniken. He's done the Simon Belmont Conan style character with Odallus. Now it's time for you to be the star, a wonderful white-haired former teen model who's now designing video games, a game about you.
So actually in Odallus, we do have a character named Albe. And Albe, if you take the letters, you can spell Bela. And Bela was actually our bunny who passed away last year. And it's kind of homage to her. It's not much of her personality anyways, but it's still an homage to her.
Sure. It's hard to capture a bunny's personality in a video game NPC. But still, now I'm all excited. Yeah?
Actually, she does have a personality very similar to our current living bunny with Odin, which is a really crampy bunny.
What's your really crappy bunny's name?
Oh, Crampy, like he's angry all the time and he bites everybody.
Oh, Crampy. What is his name? Crampy?
No, his name is Odin.
Oldie?
Odin, like the Norse god.
Oh, Odin. Cool. Yeah. Odin was also pretty crabby. and ready to bite. So that kind of makes sense. I'm still stuck on this idea of you as a starring in a video game. Would that happen? What kind of, if you were to make a game about a woman who is similar to you, do you have an idea just off the top of your head? And if you don't, that's okay. As to what kind of game that would be? Action
I
adventure?
already did it, actually. Oh.
You already did it? Tell me what you did.
It's a short game called MRC, and it's a game about a woman in the future trying to enter in a military facility. So it's about blowing up things and destroying enemies and talking to artificial intelligence.
Sounds awesome. What's it called again?
MRC, it's a short game that we made for free in a small jam.
Oh, so, I mean, I keep thinking Odallus and Oniken are the two games of Joy Masher, but there's a lot more to you guys. MRC, it's called?
Yeah, I can send you the link later. But it's basically a short game. There are only 3 stages. And we actually wanted to make something bigger out of it, as if it was a prototype or something, because we really like it, the main idea. It's kind of Metroid, but more scary, more similar to Super Metroid, actually. Similar, actually in between Super Metroid and Metroid 2, but still a different take, because you have an artificial intelligence and you have to talk of it, and there are some things, but yeah.
Yeah, that sounds super interesting. Do you think there's any chance that'll get fleshed out someday?
Someday, maybe. I'm still 20. I'm going to die at 50, so there's still 20 years to be covered at some point.
You could, I mean, I don't want you to die at 50. I would be very happy.
I don't either, but that happens.
It does happen. You can't control it. I hope you don't decide to die at 50. I hope if you hit 50 and you live through the day, you're not like disappointed, because you could be the first 60, 70-year-old woman's making video games. I don't know if that's happening. Brenda Romero is making games, and I think she's in her 50s.
She's
actually,
amazing.
yeah, she is. I've been wanting to try to get her on the show one of these days. Hopefully we can.
Brenda, please do come here.
Thank you. I'll tell her you said so. And
Thank
John
you.
Romero too would be fun to have on. I don't know if you saw the Jamie Lee Curtis proving that a 60-year-old woman can love Street Fighter as much as the rest of them. She went to Evo. She mains Cammy and was insulted that anyone would think she would play as Ryu or Ken, because that's common people stuff to her. That could be you. You could be the Jamie Lee Curtis of video game development.
I could never be Jamie Lee Curtis. She's amazing.
You're both 6 feet tall. You both have cool white hair.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. But I'm not that amazing. I have a standard right now, which is not as much as Jamie Lee Curtis, never.
I bet she would say the same thing, because you're both humble people. She would say,
I don't think so. She was fucking Vega last week.
That's true. Yeah, but have you ever done any cosplay? That doesn't really seem like you, but I just met you, so I don't know.
I just met you, and this is crazy, but I never cosplayed.
But you did go to I'm blanking on the name of the Video Game Developers Conference, GDC. You went to that?
Yeah.
How has it been to interface with both United States game developers, the United States press, as a Brazilian? Because I'd imagine it's a very similar world, because it's all video game enthusiasts, but at the same time, it's a very different world.
This is a bit shaming, but still I'm going to say it. Me and Danilo, we ran after John Romero to take a photo of him, because it's fucking John Romero. It's Wolfenstein 3D. It's my whole childhood. But still, yeah, we did that. And GDC was awesome. We met a lot of cool people. The conferences are amazing. That was our first time at GDC. And to everybody who works with games, even if really not that close to games or wants to work with games, GDC is perfect to at least start talking with people who already do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did you find it was really different? Did it feel like these American, and they're not all American, but a lot of them are, game developers, they have like advantages that maybe a Brazilian game developer might not have.
For starter, you guys have people who work with games for 20 years. That's a big difference already. Because here we do have some guys who work with video games for 10 years, but there are like 5 in the whole country. And yeah, I know. And there's still a lot of people who say they work with games, but they know shit about games, and they're working on that for that long. But GDC was amazing. I do hope we have some event similar to GDC at some point here in Brazil, but right now we don't have anything similar. We do have at least when I was in São Paulo, we did have some game developers night. We went to a bar and get shit drunk. And right now they do have an event called Spin, which is a bit more creative than that because they do play games, their own games where they're drinking. So that's I step further from the game nights. Sure. And at some point I think we will do have some kind of event similar to GDC, but right now we don't have.
Right, it's getting more mainstream eventually. How did you learn then, do you feel? This is something I should have asked earlier. You've taught level design and game design, but where do you feel like you learned it? Did you just have to extrapolate information from the games you played and like reverse engineer how they designed? Yeah? Oh, that answered your question for me.
But I did read some books about that. I did watch some videos about that. That helped a lot. It might sound weird, but some angry video game nerds videos did help a lot in the beginning when I was starting.
Because he broke down, if I remember correctly, he did an episode about Silver Surfer, which I actually really like that game, the old NES game. But he broke down the level design of the bullet patterns and exactly why it was so infuriating and unfair.
Exactly.
And when I watched it, I thought, well, that's actually why I like that game. It gives you so many interesting problems to solve. He was saying it was a terrible game. I think it's all right. So it was that kind of stuff. Angry video game nerd of all people.
That helps a lot, but I actually also read a lot of books for my master degree. I do have a master degree researching on game design. And yeah, I know. I read a lot about it, and there are a lot of academics studying games but still not understanding how developing games feel like and how it is to make games. About that, I do love the books of Ernest Adams because he really does understand what game design feels like and how developing games feels like, and that though his books help it a lot also in the beginning.
Ernest Adams, is that right?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. He was on Bullfrog Games.
Oh, okay. Good to know. I actually sort of know the guy who made the Angry Video Game Nerd Adventures game, and they just announced a sequel, actually, that I forgot.
Really? I haven't seen that. I saw only the first game.
Yeah, they just announced at Screw Attack. Screw Attack has like their own PAX type deal right now, which is looks really fun. I never get to go though because I never travel. They put their games on 3DS and Wii U. I wonder if they would want to work with you. I'm absolutely sure he would love your games if he hasn't already played.
You do have my email, so it's there. You can send it.
I will see about that. Craig, Stuttering Craig, and you would get along almost too well. You guys would have almost too much fun together, I think. We're almost out of time, or we just about are at a time. So sadly, we didn't get to talk as much as I wanted because of the technical difficulties, but we got through them. You came back strong. I am really curious before we go, though, is there any franchise that you always wished you got to work on? This is something I'm trying to remind myself to ask about.
Metroid, obviously.
Metroid, really?
Yeah.
Huh. Do you know what you would want to do with Metroid? If you
I don't care. I could pour coffees for Metroid developers, honestly. I just love Super Metroid, and the work Retro Studios did on Metroid Prime is fucking amazing. I love it since the first one. Yeah. So,
New Metroid.
I love Metroid.
Yeah, and
That-
I'm guessing you heard about Metroid Prime Federation something. Federation.
Yeah, I did, fortunately.
Yeah, it's not going to be necessarily terrible, but it's not what we were waiting for. Are you waiting for like the next 2D Metroid, or would you want a Prime game, or wouldn't matter?
I don't care. The Federation Prime, there might be still a good game. They just don't sound as Metroid. So
Yeah.
if they don't sound as Metroid, they could be a new franchise.
Right.
But apparently they're too afraid to do a new franchise. So
And they failed with new franchises plenty of times, except for Splatoon, which has done really well.
Splatoon is amazing. Why they don't do the same thing over again?
Yeah, true. I love Splatoon too. I was playing the Splatfest all night last night. I didn't get enough sleep. I really hope you get to make a 2D Metroid, or 3D if you want. But 2D seems to be, that kind of level design seems to be so perfect for your brain. That would be fantastic.
Amazing. I love it. That.
Where can people find you on the internet? You've got Joy Masher, you've got you're both on Twitter. What are your Twitter accounts?
Yes. If I say my name, people won't know how to spell it, and I don't blame them because they're
Right.
really weird names. What?
Your name is spelled Thais.
Yes, exactly. But the last name is kind of a pickle.
Weiller, right? Am I remembering right?
Perfect. Yeah, you know it better than I had to.
And is there an underscore between those, or it's just that on Twitter?
No, it's just that, no underscore.
And same with Joy Masher, it's just at Joy Masher. And
I hate underscores.
Yeah, I know. What's the point? It's just getting in the way of putting things together. Steam, you can get Oniken and Odallus on Steam right now, or you can get them in a bundle, and I believe that's still on sale for like 15, 16-ish bucks for both games.
Yeah, I think until Tuesday.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, there's not much time for that, so hurry.
As for me, I'm at TronNauts on Twitter, and I'm on Destructoid.com. You can watch the show later on Subholmes, Subholmes on YouTube, youtube.com/Subholmes Show. You can listen to it later on Libsyn as iTunes. And I think that's everything. Thanks so much. Bye, bye, bye.
Thank you.